Introducing the ultimate seat cover, Tiger Tough. Proudly made in the US of A, waterproof and backed by an unconditional warranty. Yes, you heard it right. 2 years on vehicles and a lifetime guarantee on heavy equipment. They have you covered for manufacturer defects, normal wear and tear, and even those oh shit moments. Tiger Tough covers are meticulously crafted for a perfect fit with over 30,000 pre-fit designs, ensuring they stay in place without any shifting or sliding. Plus, they're even machine washable. Don't settle for less. Get a seat cover today that's built to last. Order today at tigertough.com/dirt. Get a free logo embroidery on your first order if you use the code DIRTBAG at checkout. Once received, show us your new badass seat covers with your logo and tag us. Experience durability and quality with Tiger Tough seat covers. Toughness guaranteed.
What's up, you dirtbags? My name is Luke Egerbroughton. I am one of your co-hosts of the Dirtbags podcast, and joining me, we've got our other co-host, Mr. Luke Payne. How we doing, brother?
Cheers, brother. Good. How are you? This is night 2. We're
Yes,
2
sir.
nights in a row, man. This is fantastic. I love that. But no,
Dude.
doing good. Sorry, I'm not drinking with you tonight. I am been counting my macros and I've been tracking my calorie intake. I finally started a fitness program, so I'm having a little core power tonight. Finish off with
Yeah.
protein. That.
Shout out to Jeff Davis. Jeff Davis
Yeah,
Fit, my guy. He is
a
he's
man.
the man.
He is. It was funny how it kind of came about. I've been trying to like count my calories and figure out where I need to be in order lean out, build muscle, all that fun stuff. And it's been probably a year and a half, close to 2 years of being consistent with that. And I finally texted him. And I was like, dude, I need some of your advice on this. Like, what are your thoughts? Am I too high, too low? I'm having a hard time hitting my carbs every day. Like, what should I adjust? Um, Immediately responded. He's like, hey, here's what I would do, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, do you have any type of program? And I was like, no, I'm just, doing the bro day split basically. And he goes,
Yeah.
let's get you on a program. And I was like, I was kind of apprehensive about it for a
Yeah.
second. But then again, today being the first like workout part of the program, I'm like, hell yeah, I needed that. Take the shit out of me. And I loved it.
Yeah. So when do you work out? Do you work out in the mornings before you go in?
I work out in the mornings. Yeah. I get up early and try to get to the gym. So that way I'm not getting bombarded by calls at the gym or people are like, oh, fuck, it's 11:30 and Luke's working out right now. So I
Yeah.
try to get up and get that out of the way.
Yeah, I need to shift mine because so right now Arizona is on Pacific time. And so it's actually a good time for me to work out in the morning because yeah, like if I work out at 8 a.m. even, it's 11 a.m. Oh wait, shit, no, so I'm backwards. So I need to
Yeah.
work out in the afternoon
Yeah.
because then I won't be bothered. But that's what I've been struggling with a little bit is if I'm at the gym at 7 or 8 in the morning, like I'm getting bombarded like crazy. So maybe shifting it to 4 o'clock because it's 7 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Central. But we've just been on a roll recording podcasts. I don't know,
Yeah.
dude.
I love it. Are you like isolated when you work out? Are you like working out with somebody? Or
Yeah.
do you have a
So
trainer? Like, do you do any of
yeah,
that?
yeah. So last year and so in high school I really liked working out. I wasn't huge or anything, but I was definitely the strongest I'd ever been.
Yeah.
And then in the 8 years since, I've always been healthy, but I don't feel like I'm utilizing my body to the best of its capabilities. Like I'm 28 years old. I'm a young guy, 6 foot, but I'm just like smaller. I'm like, man, why don't I get just like bulk up and take care of my body better? And
Yeah.
so last year I took on a trainer and I've always been apprehensive of that, of course. And it was amazing. Like the dude was awesome. He became like a good friend of mine.
Cool.
And I traveled so much that I only did once a week, but even that one a week, I could see the difference. I could feel the difference. I could see it in my weight because I'm trying to gain weight.
Mhm.
Um, Fast forward a little bit, the last 3 months or so, I haven't been with a trainer, but I just texted him yesterday. I'm like, dude, I want to get back into it with you. Um, can we set something up? And just kind of like you did with Jeff, just saying like almost committing and
Mhm.
saying, I'm ready to go. What I'm doing isn't working. And yeah, I think I need a little bit of that accountability. As much as I think I don't, I definitely do because um, I just don't schedule the time on my own
Yeah.
with the work day. I'm like, there's so much work to get done with business that I just don't schedule it in. So
Yeah.
when it's on my schedule, it's like, oh, 9 a.m. I'm working out with Michael, my trainer. It's like, of course I'm going to be there. But if I don't have that, I'm finding myself not going to the gym. So
Yeah.
excited to be back into it. I've got some physical goals this year that I need to accomplish. And if I'm not in the gym, I can't accomplish them.
100%. Yeah. See, I'm the opposite in a way. Like I've got my set time. When I'm at the gym, I'm at the gym. I don't want to I don't want to talk to you as
Yeah.
bad as that sounds, but it's like let me do my shit. I got to get in and get out and call me after, and then we can catch up. So,
Yeah. No, I definitely feel that. Are you a gallon of water,
no,
bro?
I'm not that. Like I'll track my ounces, but I'm not
Yeah.
the fucking bro dude bringing his gallon of water with his headphones with the short shorts. No, that ain't me. Low
Yeah.
pro, man. I put my hood up and I'm wearing my sweatshirt. I'm wearing baggy stuff. I'm like, hopefully no one recognizes me and just go to work. That's what
Yeah.
I love, And Jeff, not to go on a tangent about Jeff, but it's really cool. His platform's all online. Used to
Yeah.
be in Fargo. I believe he lives in Arizona now,
Yep. Yep.
um, which is cool. But yeah, just super like get your shit done. Here's what you got. Do it, and it's very cut and dry, and I love it. So
Yeah. Yeah. I guess if anyone listening, on Instagram, I believe it's Jeff Davis Fit.
yep.
He's a good friend of both Luke and I's, and just a stud. He was in, we had an entrepreneur Bible study men's group. And
And
there
he
was
was
like,
in that with you.
and he was in that with me. And so there was like five of us or so. And just an absolute stud, but it's really cool when you can connect with him deeper than just fitness and business, but
Yep.
on a spiritual level, it's like, hell yeah, this is awesome. So, um, yeah, if anyone's interested, go check him out. But he's just got good content, and he's hilarious too.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. But anyway, our topic tonight is a pretty good one, Luke. I mean, we've never really dove into this one. Not I don't know why, but this has been brought up a couple times, but it's kind of a touchy topic in a way
Yeah,
because there's different situations every single time with employees. Our topic is hiring and firing, and this is more of a rant in my opinion, but let's start with the hiring process, right? When you are obviously you're hiring right now, Luke. What
yeah.
does your onboarding process look like? And have you heard of like red flags or things that you want to avoid when you are hiring on both sides? Because I've heard a couple things from like the employer and the employee side to like stay away from in that process.
Yeah. So like you mentioned, currently right now, so our team is myself full time, Josie is full time. She's a director of operations, and we've got a lot of consistent subcontractors, we call them. So they're all W-9 employees, or contractors. And so they work with me a varying amount of hours. Some of them it's like 5 hours a month, and some it's 35 hours a month. So
Mhm.
they're like part-time employees. But now we're hiring for a few full-time roles. So we've got a full-time account manager coming on, or we're hiring for. And then we also hired Brandon, our producer, full-time, and he also does a lot of graphic design, and he's going to help add more value to our clients. And then we're also hiring for kind of like a marketing manager. So that analytical nerd that is super smart when it comes to running PPC campaigns. So right now, luckily, we've put a lot of effort into building our brand over the last 4 years. So we're just posting the job on LinkedIn and we're maxing it out quickly. But there's a lot of value in working with what they might see as a cool company that's fully remote, that has a mission and a purpose, and also gives back to the community and is like a decent salary. So, for example, the account manager, it's a pretty entry level role, 40 to 50K salary, vacation time, PTO, fully remote, 401k, so stuff like that. Some some red flags that I've come into contact with, and this is coming probably in the firing aspect as well, but is trying to cut through the fluff in the interview process because I I think, and I don't know if it's my personality, but I think I latch on to people too quickly. I'm like, this person's saying all the right things,
Yeah, this
right?
person's
And
great. You're hired right now.
dude, yeah, and honestly, like, and I don't mean this to be mean, but it's just my feelings. I don't like sitting through interviews and a lot of them. Like my time is better spent elsewhere. And if I have to comb through 25 applications and sit through 20 interviews, like it's just not how I want to spend my time. So I think that's hurt me in the past because I'm quick to like, yeah, you said all the right things. Let's get started. You want to start tomorrow? Sure, let's go. And then it'll kind of come back to bite me in the ass. And so I think, and I'm curious to hear your take on this, but for myself, setting the expectations that we're a newer company, we do things different. We have technically one full-time employee right now, so our onboarding process is not going to be perfect, but you got to work with us. You got to see the vision, you got to see the mission, and you got to kind of work in the startup phase. But trying to get all that out there in the interview so I can set the expectation for them. But then for me, how can I cut through the fluff and ask them the technical questions that can get me to understand, do they actually know their shit, or are they just saying what I want to hear? And so we've been burned a couple times, but I think we're getting much better with asking those more technical questions.
Yeah. You learn to read people, when you do sit through a lot of those interviews and, you talk to a lot of people and you hear what they can say they do. But then one thing I found is if somebody tells me how great they are, like right off the bat, oh, I've been doing this for 35 fucking years and they're 35 years old, it's like, mm, show me, have a conversation with me about, what your goals are, what your aspirations are. It's kind of fluff, but then it kind of shows me the motivation side too. Cause it's like, okay, is this person really wanting to achieve things, or is it just like, hey, this is another job until something else comes down the road? Um, One of the red flags that is in the construction industry, and hopefully this, kind of transitions as the market kind of corrects itself,
Yeah.
is every company was hiring for the same people, basically, operators, laborers, pipe layers, pipe foremen, or whatever their ad was. Everybody was looking for the same people. And it basically became, if you're a warm body and you can show up, you're hired.
Yeah.
And so we did that, last year. That definitely was a thing last year. I didn't really vet people the way I should
Sure.
have, and it bit us in the ass. So this year we're changing how we're doing everything. Like we've got our leadership group. If there's an applicant that we see that, intrigues us, we're all going to hop on a phone call, talk about it, and be like, all right, here's some questions. Here's what I see on this resume. You get 4 different perspectives and they bring up different questions. After that happens, we hop on a phone call with the guy. It's kind of like an intro, like, hey man, leadership team here, thanks for sending in your application. We got a couple questions for you. Say you've had 19 different jobs in the past year or past, 4 years, but why is that? You ask that question up front, then you get to kind of know them from hearing their answer. And then based off those, you can kind of decide, okay, is it worth it for a more like intimate interview?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one process we're really trying to dial in this year and really, really vet the people that come on, because we did have the wrong people in certain places last year and it killed
Yeah.
our culture.
Yeah.
There was a lot of non-compliance and not meeting the standards, and it just kind of got pushed under the wayside to where that's not a thing this year. So
Yeah.
that's a really big thing. I would say a red flag that comes to my mind if like an employer's basically, you have a quick conversation, they ask you a couple questions, they're like, all right, can you start tomorrow? That's a red flag for me
That
because I'm
was
like,
me.
okay, this isn't no, So
Yeah.
I don't know,
No,
man. Hiring is tough.
yeah, 100% that was me. And one thing that I think fits your situation I want to ask you about is people that reach out to you because okay, now you and I have both been in business for a little while now, so we've seen some of the cyclical um, events that happen in business where you're hiring. It's like, okay, no, now we need to focus on profit. Now we need to. So, what if, and I know you've had this, somebody reaches out to you that is seemingly a stud. You're
Yeah.
not hiring currently. what are your thoughts on finding something to do for that person versus biting your tongue and saying, like, reach out to us in the summer when we have work? What are your thoughts on like grabbing the good talent if they're already coming at you versus holding off if you don't need to hire them?
Grab the talent,
Yeah.
because it doesn't come to you very often, and when it does, it's kind of have to make room for that position,
Yeah.
right? And is when you're a smaller company, say you're say a $1 to $3 million company, that might not be feasible, right? And that's okay. But I feel like if you really want to grow, in my mind, and maybe I'm going to shoot myself in the foot by saying this, but you know, for the business, and if they provide value realistically,
Yeah.
what is $70,000 a year? What does that look like a month? What is that going to cost me a month? And I don't want to say, because 70,000 is, a good amount, but say
Yeah.
that's kind of like your median range of what somebody in our industry can make as like a laborer, or, kind of a heavy equipment operator, or, something a little bit lower level. What is, to me, I think of, okay, if I take this person on now and I have to
Mm.
spend 4 or 5 grand a month, I know we're going to be productive because I can put him into different situations I might not be able to put other people in, really test him, really vet him. And then, Cole and I we're on kind of the path of let the players play.
Yep.
People that show up and want to do it, guess what? You're the ones that are going to be in that seat. You're the ones that are going to be, getting those promotions. So, my opinion, take them, because
Yeah.
you can always find more work. And I think you and I know this. Like, there is an abundance of work out there. It's a lot easier to take on guys
Yeah.
and fulfill more projects than it is to let go guys because you don't have enough work. So
Yeah.
it's you as the owner constantly having to, keep the machine fed. And if you can do that, and you can, say your mindset is growth, and you have these right people in place, so they're coming to you, that growth is going to be a lot more achievable, because you're going to be able to, again, have those right people, or have really good people behind you, to where that growth is going to accelerate, and it's going to be a lot more smooth.
Yeah, I almost set that question up as like a trick question, and you
Yeah.
answered the way that I 100% believe in as well. Because, and so we were just in Miami at our big marketing mastermind, and what they call them are A players, and so that
Mhm.
would be like your leadership team or the people that are helping you run the business. And we're at the point in our business too, and we wanted to get to this point as well, but if somebody is an A player, we're going to take them in and we'll
Yep.
figure it out with them. But also, we're hiring for where we want to go and to backfill the need, because we are very busy and we are kind of almost bursting at the seams.
Yep.
So we're at that good point, I think, where you can hire an A player to help the team of what we're currently doing, but also like, hey, we're not staying around this 1 million, $1.5 million mark. Like we're scaling. We're going into scaling
Yep.
season right now. And so let's not take our foot off the gas and just say like, well, let's hunker back down. But like we're fixing our systems to rescale again. But we need those A players on our team to be a part of this mission and this journey. And I'm sure what you've seen too is somebody that's been with your company for a couple years usually is a lot more valuable than somebody just starting out, no matter how good they are, because
Yep.
they understand how you work, how your systems work. They understand the communication flow, and they can just go. They can read your mind without you even saying anything.
Mhm.
And I've realized that over the years how valuable that is,
Very.
because we've been very blessed with consistency with our team. Most of our entire team has been with me over 3 years,
Yep.
and I don't have to tell them anything. They know exactly what to do. And so as you guys are looking to hire, look to hire those A players of somebody that, okay, can this person be with us for a long time? And as the business owner, it's my opinion that you need to make sure that the revenue and the profits are there to keep them.
Mhm.
And I think assigning certain amount of your profits to have a couple month emergency fund for each employee is very important. I think that's just setting your core capital target of what you need to operate every single day, but also if shit hits the fan, how long can you operate with the current money that's in the bank account?
100%. another, kind of backtracking on the hiring side too. Like if you are hiring for these positions, a couple things that have come across our desk that looking back, I'm going to take these as red flags. But if you're taking somebody on and they're fired up about their old boss and this guy owes me money and he fucked me over or whatever the case, to me that's a red flag, right?
100%.
100%. There's a lot more to that story than you're saying. I guarantee it. This is your end, and here's the owner's end, right? It's going to
Yep.
be somewhere right in here to where the actual story lies. So that always kind of turns me off of people. Um, another one is when people are spiteful.
Yep.
If they want to come over and they're like, I can give you all of their bidding, I can give you all their numbers. I'm like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
Because if I take you on and something goes wrong or you're not happy and you want to move, you're going to do that same thing to me.
Yeah.
So those to me are like kind of like see you laters. I don't care if you are an A player. I feel like in my head, A players don't have that type of mentality either.
Yeah.
So you're probably not as valuable as you say that you are.
Yeah. One thing I learned too from our week in Miami that I wrote down to implement is ask these new employees or these interviewers um, which core value in your company do they resonate with most and
Yeah.
why? And just
Mhm.
have them talk about it, because then they're associating themselves with your business and with your values, and let them talk about it. I think sometimes we're too quick to put the answer in front of them. And so asking that question, and if they don't know your core values, make sure that they know where they can find them. Let them
Correct.
study them, let them understand how your business runs, and then let them talk about that. Which one do they embody the most and why? And I would say give the first one and then give a second one and why. But that can really help you understand, are we on the same page, or is this just a bit too fluffy for you?
Dude, that would be a really good shotgun question. I'm sorry, I wouldn't give somebody the opportunity to study that. I
Yeah,
would
that's
I would pull that out and say, read these. Which one do you relate to the most? Right then and there and
yeah,
see where their reaction goes. Because a lot of the times people understand, how they're valuable or why they're valuable. And if they can see core values and they're like, hey, say communication is one of them. Hey, I'm
yeah,
really good at communicating. I'll over communicate the fuck out of you, you know, and then they can go on a tangent of that. Or, hey, my commitment to my work. I really am prideful of what I do and how I do it and the results that I provide. And so that's not a hard question, but I feel like that would be a really good question just off the cuff to that person.
yeah. Do you? I know we're talking a lot about hiring. We're gonna get into firing here, but do you ask the question to somebody you're gonna hire about their weaknesses? I guess I've never thought about that. I know that's happened in my previous interviewing days of somebody saying like, "What's your biggest weakness?" And usually you hear the answers of like, "Oh, I care too much," or "I try too hard." It's like, come on, that's bullshit.
Yeah,
Well,
shut the
give me
fuck up.
something. Yeah,
Yeah, give me something a little bit deeper. I've actually never asked that question
yeah,
because I'm not worried about their weaknesses.
yeah,
Those are always going to come up. You know, if somebody were to ask me that question, I would tell them my weakness is I don't have enough emotion. But in certain positions, that doesn't matter, right? So it's
yeah,
not really obtainable.
yeah.
Not obtainable, but it's not relevant.
Yeah. And here's a piece of advice for somebody listening that is an employee looking to interview. So, one thing that I look at as an employer is hard skills.
Yeah.
Soft skills, I feel like, can be taught. They can, you can bring them out of people. I think that's a big part of leadership. And by soft skills, I mean communication, um, timeliness, even to an extent, organization and things like that. But give me some hard skills. In my line of work, it's graphic design, web design, SEO. Like they're an SEO engineer. They build out PPC ads. Like they're studs at that. And then maybe in construction, it's um, being able to utilize GPS technology, or utilizing certain technologies, softwares, CRMs, different things like that. Like, give me some hard skills that are tangible, and instead of the, yeah, oh, I'm a go-getter. It's like, okay, anyone can say that, but like what else
Yeah,
can
give me more.
we, yeah, give me more. Like
Yep.
what is tangible here? Like, do you know spreadsheets like the back of your hand? That is a hard skill. That is tangible. And by hard skill, I don't mean difficult. I mean something that is tangible that you could go get a certification for. That's something I like to say is, can you go get certified for that? If it's a Google Analytics certification, boom, love it. There's no account manager certification out there
No,
because
no.
it just doesn't exist.
Yep. Give me something that I can resonate with, knowing more about you and where your motivations lie, where your skills lie. Then I can help kind of create that atmosphere around you.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So let's go into firing a bit. Um,
Yeah.
I'll start with my experience. So, um, like I said, I've been very lucky, very blessed with a very consistent team, but and also too, my firing has consisted of contractors. So I
Mhm.
obviously treat everyone as if they were an employee or a part of our team, just not legally.
Yep.
And but it still sucks when you fire people. But there are cases that are easier than others. And I've been involved in many situations, and you are, as the business owner, you have to make decisions for the company. And I think just realizing that it's always business,
Mhm.
and the business has to be fed first.
Correct.
The business, no matter what, has to be making revenue and profit, and that's my job, is to make sure it does. And then that feeds all the employees and all the workers. And so the workers are right under there. They're above the owner, of course, and we'll get into that here. But if the business isn't being fed, the employees aren't being fed. So the employees, in my opinion, are put into place to run these systems of your business. And if they're doing it in a way that's not helping the business, or it's not doing what your description of their position is supposed to do, then you have to put somebody else there. And so it's very important to remember that, because you have to sometimes take the emotion out of it and just think in
You
numbers
always
of,
have to.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's a good point too, of just, um, is this going to work? Not
Mhm.
just this month, but in the future. And if it's not going to work 3 months down the road, get it done now and get somebody else in there, and take care of your people, care about your people, communicate. But at the same time too, like, a lot of times getting rid of them quicker will help them, and it'll help you get back on track.
Yeah. Firing is a tough topic because I feel like every situation is different,
For
but
sure.
every situation, I would say 90% of, firings are due to, high emotions on one of the side, right? And that emotion isn't taken out of it, so then it just spirals.
Yep.
Um, because firing is, I mean, it's not a fun thing, right?
No.
You on the receiving end, you feel very defeated, you feel very embarrassed, you
Yeah.
feel very, very upset, very mad, very scared because you're like, where the fuck am I going to go? So you have a bunch of different emotions in your head. But, as far as the employer side goes too, it is a very tough time because it's like, am I making the right decision? Am I, do I, am I giving up on this guy too soon? But it's
Yeah.
taking that step back, looking at it for face value and like, okay, well, hey, I got this foreman that's in this position and he is causing drama. He is not doing his due diligence. He is not doing any of the required paperwork for what's required in the field, and nothing's getting done. He's not in the right position. And in construction, it's tough because you can't really like I mean, you can demote somebody and be like, you are
Mhm.
no longer foreman and put them back in the field. But in our experience, that hurts you more because then that person's like, oh, I'm not fucking valuable and all of this stuff. So that's where again, really vetting the people and having them kind of grow within your system, I feel like is really important because when that situation does happen to where they're not producing, you almost just have to get rid of them at that point because it's kind of too far gone to where if you
Mhm.
keep them within your company, they aren't going to last. And that is going to be tough, especially these last years when, you need all the people to continue to go because you can't be short staffed or this person's crucial because of this. Again, you really have to take that 10,000-foot view because if somebody is doing those things or if they're really creating kind of like a mass destruction from within, you got to get rid of that as soon as you can. That's how
Yeah.
drama starts. That's how rumors start. That's how, it's a whole spiral mess, and it's very tough to like nail down one point because again, every situation is different. I think you as the owner, you're the forefront and you have to be every time I talk to my attorney about firing, I'm like, what do I need? How do I protect myself? And she's always like, Luke, keep it vague, thank them for their time, say your
Mhm.
services are no longer needed, and go from there. Because she's like, as soon as you start giving them excuses, that's when they could start kind of, I don't want to say coming back at you, but there could be wrongful termination lawsuits and things like
Mhm.
that, to where it's like cut and dry. I'm sorry. Thanks for what you've done. Best of luck to you.
All right, you dirtbags, we're going to take a quick break to thank one of our sponsors, Lambert Insurance Services. If you know Luke and I, you know we started this podcast to provide value to the construction industry. When we went to seek out an insurance company to work with, there's not a whole lot that are specific to the industry. And we really didn't want to work with a generalist agency, so we kind of put that on the back burner. Then we got to meet Sam Lambert. Sam is a fellow dirtbag himself. He's been in the industry for a long time, but he also started his insurance company in 2008 specifically for construction companies. So when we had that conversation, we knew that this would be the perfect match. So we started working with him, and he's been incredible. He leads first. He wants to be a resource first and an insurance agency second. They can help with provide general liability, workers' comp, commercial truck insurance, insurance for equipment, and so many more different avenues that he can provide coverage for. The great part about it is, they're licensed in most states, and they always quote through multiple companies,
including Progressive Commercial Insurance.
So that's how you know you can get a competitive rate. And even better, Sam, he's the owner. He wanted to provide his cell number just so if you have any questions, specifically from the dirtbags, you can always text him, give him a call, ask to compare plans, or just ask, what his rates would be, and then he can help direct you to the right place or answer your question from there. His number is 385-204-5799, or you can reach them at their website, which is lambert-ins.com. So reach out to him if you have any insurance questions. We're very excited about this partnership. Sam is an awesome guy, and we're just excited to continue providing value for all you dirtbags. So thank you, Lambert Insurance. Give him a text, shoot him a call, let him know that you're fans of the Dirtbags podcast. Let's get back to it. That's very interesting. It's good to have that oversight as well, because you and I aren't lawyers.
Nope.
We have done this now for a few years, and so we're getting a lot of experience under our belt. But at the same time, too, we have to learn those lessons. But having that oversight really helps. And obviously, that's part of what the podcast is looking to do is to help you. So as you were talking there, I had a situation pop in my head. Somebody's listening. They have a team of, let's say, 3 to 5 in their crew. They're not a big company, but they have somebody that's underperforming. So it's not as cut and dry of like they're blowing up. I need to fire this person because it's destroying our culture. But they just might not be a great fit. But also, like everyone listening, they're probably like, how can I replace this person? Like this person is a warm body. They show up 30 minutes late, but they're still showing up most of the time. What do they do in that situation? Is it a leadership issue? Is there something that they can do to lead better? Or is it a person, an employee issue that they need to replace? What are your thoughts on that?
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink, right? You could be the best business owner there is, and you can have an employee who just doesn't care, right? But that's where I think being the leader, you really got to sit down, set kind of an expectation, but then also if that expectation isn't upheld, there has to be repercussions.
Yeah.
Because if there's nothing worse than a bad employee not getting reprimanded or not upholding the same standard as the others and it being tolerated, because
Gotcha.
that will kill your culture as well. Then everybody else is like, well, this person can do that. I'm picking up his slack. I need a raise. Or, hey, I'm just not going to do much anymore either. I don't have to work hard if he doesn't. So how I would go about it, being in that small scene again, have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
Very one-to-one. Don't do a phone call. Don't do a text. Make it personable and say, hey, Don't take this maliciously. Don't take this with ill intent. Here's what I've been noticing. Here's what needs to change. Here's our expectation that we are going to achieve. And if you can't achieve that, right, you got 2 strikes. Okay. If, say I want you here at 8 a.m. every day. If you come in at 8:30 one day, that's a strike, right? Because we are going to uphold these standards, and it's balls in your court, man. Like, if you don't want this job, that's on you. Like, you get to put in the effort. You get to put in on what you create of yourself in this company. And if, they'll show you if they want to be part of that, because then they'll either uphold it or they won't. And then at that point, you got to let them go.
Yeah. And I love how you walked through that, because in that expectation conversation, there's a little bit of, is there anything I can do differently? Is there anything?
And you got to ask that question.
Yeah. Like, do you need anything from me to get here by 8 o'clock? Is there something else I'm missing? And having a little bit of that humility to say, am I being unreasonable to ask you to be here at 8?
Yep.
But also, because that is the because if I am being unreasonable, then it might not be a good fit. But there could be something that you can dig out of. Let's say they drop their kids off at daycare and the daycare doesn't open till 8. That's why they're getting there at 8:30. It's like, that's good information to know.
Let me know.
Let's talk about some options there. And so I think the further you dig, but also setting those strong expectations. And then if those expectations, once they're set, are not met, then they can go. Yeah.
Gotta go. Because if you keep putting up with it, things are just going to get worse. You're going to get more frustrated. Your workers are going to get more frustrated. The company's going to be frustrated as a whole. And it just instills a bad culture. And it's removing the emotion out of it, right? We're here to talk professionally. Anything that's said, whenever I have these conversations, I'm always like, it's an open floor. Air out your frustrations. I'm not going to take anything to the heart and say, well, fuck, can't believe they said that about this. Nope, air it out. Let's talk about it. Let's have the conversation, and let's see how we can fix it. Again.
Yeah. It's interesting because on both sides, it's so much more expensive money and time for you guys to split, right? So you should always want to get there, both of you guys. And so the employee should want to get there, because then they don't have to go look for a new job, get trained in, move potentially, all of that. But then as the owner, it's very expensive time and resources to hire a new employee, onboard them, train them. And so trying to make it work in these conversations, but at the same time, not sacrificing your value system for them is big.
No, I agree. But then going into those meetings too, not with anger, not with a haste, go into that meeting with like, I want to make this work. I don't want to let you go, but because I'm the owner, and because, we all need this company to feed our families, we got to step up to the plate. And if you can't, I'm going to find somebody that can.
Yeah. We had a couple situations recently where, and like you said, I hate firing people. It sucks. But yeah, for one reason or another, I told them too, I am to blame, because I think I set the wrong expectation in the onboarding call, actually, and the interview, of just what I was expecting. And honestly, it kind of came down to probably work ethic and making sure that we're getting everything done at a productive rate, and taking it seriously of the weight of business and the weight of, we are working with real people's businesses and real people's money. And I think a lot of that was on me, of just not translating that seriously enough. But like you mentioned earlier, it was just too far gone to repair. And I had to look at that of, okay, can we get there in the next 6 weeks? No, I totally saw that as we just can't repair this. So then my thoughts are, why keep going? And so then just ending it, like you said, just so many times as owners and as entrepreneurs, we want to give explanations and give this and that. And a lot of times it's gotta be emotionless almost. You gotta let them know, and then let them know the details of what to expect after this. You're locked out of your email, or you expect 2 weeks pay will take care of you up until then. But it has to be cut and dry. And if they ask for a reason, I think then you can give them a bit more, but not doing it right away and not just going into the sob story of what happened, how you're feeling, because I think that can open the door for a lot more issues coming down the pipeline.
Yeah. And see, I've been told to not give a reason because 90% of the time they'll know why they're getting fired. Right. And they can use, and it's tough to say, but I'm always thinking of, protection of yourself. You got to protect the
That's
company,
true.
right? You got to protect the interest. And so people know why they're fired. People know when they're underperforming. So there shouldn't be a question. And that is something, me personally, I'm not going to answer.
Yeah.
Why are you firing me? Services are no longer needed, man. Best of luck to you. Appreciate all you've done. And then that's it. That's all I will give.
Yeah. That's a very fair point. I think, yeah, because then you can open the door for, like we are just talking about,
Mm-hmm.
for potential issues. But it's something I'm learning a lot of, especially when it comes to hiring a full-time person, when it comes to benefits and
Yep.
pay and all that, and like what you can and can't say and what you shouldn't say. So that's all new for me. We hired our first full-time employee in May of 2023. So it's been exciting. I think it's actually less scary
Do it.
once you hire the first one and you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And then you kind of realize that you're spending all this money anyway, and this employee can help you achieve those missions and those dreams
Yep.
and to increase revenue. But making sure that you assign it, for me, I struggle a little bit with non-revenue generating positions because I
Big time.
know they're super important, but it's like, is it generating 2x the revenue?
Yep.
If it is, it's an easy hire, right? But if it isn't, it's like, where does that come into our journey of our profits and our revenues? And
Correct.
I don't have the right answer right now, but I know that um, personally, I want to always be growing,
Mm-hmm.
always be scaling to a point where we're always profitable also. And so I
Yep.
think you can't lose sight of your profits, because your revenues, if you focus too much on those, you might never make a dollar.
Yep.
So if you're profitable and if it's going to help the service you're providing, whether it's efficiency or quality, bring them in, because without those clients paying you, you're not going to have a business. And so focusing on the quality and the efficiency first, and then I think the rest usually falls into place.
Yep. Well, account for that in your overhead, right?
For sure.
Those expenses are supposed to be in your overhead, especially I've been, talking with Randy a lot, and he's been drilling that. Like, these are your overhead expenses. These need to be accounted for. Our estimator, Becky, me, Cole,
Yeah.
Hugh, Andy. I mean, that is all overhead because, salaries, right? You can try to add those to job costs, right, to help pan it out, but it's easy to just conglomerate it into your overhead and account that when you're bidding and put that into your profit, because you've got your gross and your net. Your gross is supposed to encompass those things because I mean they're expenses that are always reoccurring. They're not a variable expense. It is a direct expense. So I'm no accountant, and again, that's very surface level, but
Yeah.
that's what I've been told. Going back a little bit to your point with the onboarding process, how important, I mean, I know they're important. I shouldn't say how important, but having a very solid job description, I feel like in the hiring process can eliminate a lot of the factors after hire to where maybe there's more added on to that plate. And then people automatically assume, oh, well, there's more responsibility. I need more pay. Well, no, this was supposed to be included, in your, you know, in your hiring packet when you were hired. It's just, getting added on now because I feel like I can trust you in this. I can put that responsibility on you. Show me that you can complete these tasks and, whatever else. So having that very clear expectation and very clear description, I feel like in the hiring process will save a lot of that headache as well.
Yeah.
We've gone through that to where we've hired somebody on the basis of this and their role kind of changes in a way of what is actually needed versus what was perceived as needed. And it's just having those conversations.
Yeah, and it's easy enough, right, when you're small and you have 2 employees, 3 employees, but as you scale and as you get bigger, it's incredibly important. It's almost like a mini contract
Yeah,
where it's like, I just need to know what I'm responsible for. And they
correct.
see that and they're, okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm responsible for communication for these projects and for making sure this set of team members don't drop the ball here and project management here. And so a lot of times if it's just laid out and you're setting the expectation, everything's good. But it's when you don't lay it out and then you ask them to do something and then there's just too many balls in the air and then you realize that their production rate is failing. You can't find a good production rate and you can't calculate it if you don't have a good job description, in my opinion, because it's
Correct.
undefined. You don't even know what they're supposed to be doing. So we're working on that right now. And what I wrote down too is what we're working on is our org chart. So now as our team is growing, who is reporting to who?
Mhm.
Who is taking care of what? And you should be able to zoom out and see that org chart of, okay, if this person has a problem, they report to this person.
Yeah.
If that person still has an issue, then they go up to this person.
Yeah.
And every business should and can have an org chart, even if it's like a one man owner operator, you can have it because you're there and you still have somebody doing your taxes.
Mhm.
Most likely, you still have somebody that is a vendor that you're buying materials from. Like just laying that out of who's going to who can really give you a clear picture on your company. But then in that org chart, having those descriptions, in my opinion, each block, it shouldn't even have a name to it
Mhm.
with the description. It should just be the job name, the job title, and then the job description.
Yep.
And it's important to build it out for that because every employee you have won't be with you in 10, 20 years. I mean,
Correct.
it's a fact. And
Yep.
so ideally a lot of them are stay with you, but things happen. And so making sure that you build it out for the ease of it being replaced.
Mhm.
It's you don't always want it to be replaced, but it's going to happen. So making sure that you build out the system that somebody else could jump right in and pick up right where they left off. They've got all the SOPs, they've got all the checklists of what needs to be done, where it needs to go, and so that way you don't lose a step every single time somebody leaves your company.
Correct. Correct. And then it's just an easy implementation and starting doing that when you're small. So it's a lot
Yeah.
easier to keep up as you grow. Cause I'll tell you, it's going to be a lot harder if you're at a certain point and you're like, fuck, I got to do all this. I got to go through all of this. It's just going to be a lot more time consuming unless you keep up with it when you kind of first start out or, are in that smaller scale to where there's just a couple of you.
Yeah, I think too what it helps with is just helps you run a more well-oiled machine.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people they get scared of growth or scaling because they think it's just going to add 10 if they grow 10x, they think it's going to add 10x the issues.
Correct.
I don't really see it that way. A lot of times it can help alleviate some issues if you have the right systems in place because now you have more to move around and to put more people in place and to
Yep.
build these systems and become more profitable. But I also don't fault anyone who wants to stay the one man show and not run a business with multiple people because you do become a people manager
Yep.
and keeping people happy and dealing with the
Tough gig.
repercussions. Yeah, it is tough. And your job role just changes. And a lot of people they just want to be in a machine. And it's
Correct.
like if that's what you want to do, then
Then
you know,
great.
yeah, exactly. You can stick with that. But if you do want to have a bigger, maybe let's say financial impact on your community, to do that, you might need to grow the company.
Yep.
And I look at it as an exciting challenge of how can we do this in a way where we have better results for our clients and we make more money.
I
And
agree.
like that's the fun equation to try and solve.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, man, hiring and firing, I'll tell you what, tough topic, but there's so many different dynamics to it. Just, make sure you're protected, make sure you have the systems in place, make sure you have the right questions, make sure you have those job descriptions, And a lot of the headaches, I think, will go away if you have those.
Yeah. Oh, here's a solid tip for you guys. Just learned this. When somebody onboards with your company, have a week 1 win, week 2 win, all the way up, usually to like 6, maybe it's a 6-week onboarding, let's say. That way it's like, what would be a win at the end of the first week for you?
Yeah.
What would be a win? And I'll use an example of, we're bringing Brandon on here in a couple weeks. His week 1 win is that he's introduced himself to every one of our clients with his new email, and he lets them know how they can use him and his graphic design services for free, and just how they can get a hold of him. If
Yeah.
he gets that done in the first week, boom, that's a win.
Yep.
Second week, I haven't figured that out yet, but it'll likely be something with the Dirtbags podcast. Like, okay, we'll have gone through every single episode. We'll have updated the website, and we've got this, and this. If that is all done by Friday on week 2, that week was a win. And so clearly defining those wins and starting simple, get the ball rolling, get some momentum going, and then work it up to when you hit the 4th or 6th week, they're ready to go full time, and they are already rolling.
They're rolling. Yep. I like that. Really cool. And that's another thing, is just on the compliance side, is celebrating those wins.
Yeah.
But celebrate the wins that are above and beyond of what is already currently asked. If you celebrate people doing their job,
Yep.
I think you're giving in to kind of like an entitlement type thing. Oh, you knocked it out of the park. You did this. Well, I can't even think of an instance, but that's part of the job description already. I'm not going to celebrate that, right?
Right.
I will celebrate when you go above and beyond, and it really shows.
Yep. 100%. Yeah. And I think that's a really good point, is especially the small wins in the
Yep.
week 1, 2s, and 3s. It's not something to really celebrate, but something that is the expectation. Like, we need you to be here so that we can get on with the next week here and really get this ball rolling. And then if they do it quicker, or they go above and beyond and they do it faster, great. We just skipped ahead a few weeks. And Brandon's a good example because he's been working with me for almost 4 years. So I see it going a lot quicker.
Yep.
But just setting the expectation of, this is where we need you to be at the end of the week.
Yep.
And then getting it done and making sure, okay, yep, he knows where he needs to be. And if we're not there, we need to fix that. And if we're there, can we do more?
Couldn't agree more, man. Well said.
Sweet. Yeah, dude, like you said, hiring and firing, it comes with the territory. It's something that none of us are taught, and you just get thrown into it, but it's something that's very important. Your people in almost every business is probably your number 1 expense or investment. You could look at it. That line item, and you and I were talking about this the other day, even just the payroll taxes, right? Sometimes that's overlooked. It's like, oh, 60K salary, 70K salary. What's the big deal? It's $5K a month, plus all the taxes that go with it, and plus the fees to pay your software, your payroll software. And it's just, there's a lot more that goes into it than I even realized. And I guess I'm very thankful that we've grown a bit slower, where we 1 employee at a time, and we're like, okay, yeah, now this is doubling. Here we go. We're doing this thing. But I know you've had even quicker growth too, and dealing with that is tough, going from, where you were to then scaling up and be like, man, these bills are huge that come in. But also, you look on the flip side and you look at the revenues that are coming in. It's like, well, to accomplish that revenue or those profits, we need these people. And so what is your biggest expense is also your biggest investment, and an absolute necessity to get to where you want to go.
Exactly. And it's not looking at them as a burden. It's looking at them as how they can be utilized the best way. There's metrics of what your employees should be making a month for the company, and what that looks like for top line and all of that. So yeah, man. I mean, people are always tough because personalities always differ. But if you have expectations in place, if you had if you have procedures in place, if you have, your SOPs, whatever the case, make it easy for them. Give them the tools to succeed.
Yeah.
And
So
people,
so what happens when, as the owner, or if there's two of you or just me, what happens when Friday rolls around or whichever day it is, it's payroll, and for whatever the case, there's just not enough money in the bank account to pay payroll. What
Mhm.
happens in that case?
You're the owner, man. You got to figure it out. Either you're putting money in to make sure people get paid because it's not their fault,
Yep.
and it might not even be the owner's fault. But those are things
True.
that you have to be ready to do as the owner. It's tough, but that's business. That's why you go into business. There's huge risks. It's not easy, So you as the owner, that's your responsibility to figure it out, whatever that may be. So
Yeah, dude, you got to figure it out, and like I mentioned earlier, business gets fed, has to get fed. The employees are
mhm.
next, and the owners, they typically fall down the list quite a
they're
bit.
they're
And
they're low end totem pole when it comes down to that.
yeah,
But the sacrifices now will hopefully, pay off later. The investment you make now, the tuition you pay will, hopefully pay you dividends, someday down the road.
yeah, that's a really good point too. And maybe that's a good question here. So, at what point, and let's use construction as an example, at what point is it not acceptable to not make a dollar of profit that you're bringing home? How many years? Let's just say you just keep breaking even every year. You're barely making it by. There's stress. At what point do you say, why am I doing this? And should we keep doing this if we're 10 years in and we're not making I don't want to say significant, but a profit that helps you get to where you want to go? What are your thoughts on that?
It's a good question. I would, hmm, I would look at your market, right?
Yeah.
Where's your services? How are you trying to market those services? Is there a need for those services? Because if you're not making money,
Yeah.
right, how can you pivot? Is where my head goes. Like where else could you be needed? Where else could you go and try to make that money from?
Yeah. I love that because I think a lot of a lot of business owners, they think they're doing the right thing because that's
Mhm,
what maybe everyone else is doing, but it totally depends on the area you're in, your clientele, your customer base. Is that a service that's even needed? Like,
mhm,
let's talk about North Dakota. Like, there's a lot of oil and gas development that goes on up there. That's not going to work out in Connecticut. And just what are you offering? Is it a need? And also, I hear you ask about this a lot on the podcast, but doing a little bit of market research.
mhm.
Do you have 20 competitors that do exactly what you do? And then one service over, there's like one older guy that's retiring and he's making all the money and he's trying to figure out who to give it to. So taking a look at your service offerings and the demand also and the other companies, the competition, and just doing an audit of your business and where you're at, because pivoting is not a bad thing. Many companies pivot every single year just to find their groove
Mhm.
and make sure that they're in the right place to eventually make money.
Make money. Yeah. No, do business. Yeah, business is business. You as the owner again goes back onto your shoulders. You need to be constantly aware of changing things. You have to be aware of what's going on in the economy, what's going on, with even overseas, what's going on with stock markets, what's going on with interest rates. Because all of those in construction are variables that can affect your work. What companies are thriving, which ones aren't. Is there certain people that you could get on bid lists of that have a very aggressive growth pattern in the next
Yeah.
5 years? Look at those trends, and if you do that and you stay up with them, you'll be just fine. You can't
Yeah.
expect the work to always come to you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I wrote down complacency. Don't get complacent. And it's not always going to be the same. What worked in from 2019 to a couple years ago isn't going to work
Yep.
now.
Yep.
And everything changes. Like you mentioned too, even looking at different countries, what's going on, the interest rates, just buyer habits. And you can go horizontal and vertical. And so you can go to different services, but you can also go, there's residential, there's commercial, municipal, federal, and there's also reservation. We have some clients that work for the reservation and they are crushing it, but it's all, there's pros and cons to every single one. There's no gold standard of one. And
No,
so I think always being willing to dip your toe in some of those and seeing
yeah,
where's the opportunity and not getting complacent and always chasing the opportunity without getting distracted from what's currently working.
I agree. No, well said. So,
Thank you.
hell yeah,
Yeah,
man.
I think that, dude, that was a, I think that was a fun one. I'm curious if anyone's still listening this far, letting us know what you guys thought of that episode, but also some situations you're currently going through because Luke,
With
like you
hiring
said,
and firing, I want to know.
yep, because every situation's different. We've all had the horror stories. But at the end of the day, yeah, we want to run a good, successful business that is fruitful. And people are the biggest part of that in both ways. So
Absolutely.
they can bring you up and they can tear you down. So making sure you have the ones that are gonna help you get there and that you can celebrate with them and be fruitful for them in their lives as well.
Absolutely. No, well said. Give us your feedback, give us your problems, give us your solutions, give us everything. We want to hear it. So,
Hell yeah. Well, good stuff, dude. We got a couple more podcasts coming your guys' way. Keep your eyes peeled and we'll see you on the next one.
see you on the next one.